Ricky Cage, welcome to CNN News 18.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Ricky, I know it's been close to 2 months when the Grammys were announced. But congratulations for the Grammy Award. This was, of course, your third Grammy. You bagged the Grammy Award for your album Divine Tides in the Best Immersive Audio Album category. Would you please like to express your joy again like an acceptance speech?
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. It feels really good to win the Grammy Award for the third time, and this time for the Best Immersive Audio Album category. So this category was very special to Stuart Copeland, that is my collaborator, and I, because it's a category that cuts across genres. So we were not only competing with albums that sounded like our album, but we also were competing with albums in such diverse kinds of genres of music. We were competing against Christina Aguilera, who's a pop icon. We were also competing against Chainsmokers, who are the highest paid DJs on our planet today. So it felt good that Indian music competed with these amazing icons, and we emerged victorious. So it was a great moment to actually win for this album, because I put my heart and soul into this album, and it was great.
Now, you shared this award with Stewart Copeland and Herbert Waltl, with whom you have collaborated for this album. Is there a larger objective behind collaborating with these artists?
Not really, actually, because the thing about collaboration is that you find like-minded musicians who you want to work with. It's almost like a marriage of sorts, that when I was, because actually how Divine Tides was born was that, I'd won my first Grammy in 2015. And for the next 7 years, I was constantly thinking about doing a follow-up to the album. And but my relentless touring schedule, because I do about 15 to 18 countries a year, and and about 60 to 70 concerts a year. So it was just not allowing me to create a new album. But then, of course, the pandemic hit in 2020. We were forced to be indoors. I was spending all my time in this studio that you're looking at right now. And I started making the album Divine Tides, or rather what would be called Divine Tides later on. And while making this album, I felt that, I really needed somebody, an amazing instrumentalist to collaborate with on this album, because it's more fun when you're working with people. And then that is when I thought of contacting Stuart Copeland. I've idolized him all my life. I've had posters of him on my wall while growing up, loved his band, The Police. And then I just reached out to him, and he said yes. And, as they say, the rest is history. We collaborated on the album, worked on the album, and a year later, we ended up winning 2 Grammy Awards for that album.
You've been representing India at the Grammys since 2015, when your album Winds of Samsara won the Best New Age Grammy. Have you noticed a tangible change in the perception toward Indian artists and music from West now?
See, we have to look at Indian music in 2 broad categories. One would be the traditional music, that is the Indian classical music and the folk forms. And on the other side, you would have the pop music, which is basically the film music, Bollywood music, South Indian music, all of that stuff. Now, when it comes to the traditional music, that has been appreciated forever. Because if you look at Pandit Ravi Shankar also has won 3 Grammy Awards. He's also won a Lifetime Achievement Grammy Award. He's been appreciated all over the world. He's performed everywhere in the world. And when you go to while he was alive, if you would go to a concert of his, the people in the audience of that particular theater where he's performing would be very representative of the demographic of the city itself. So, whereas when it comes to the pop music forms, what is happening is that the pop musicians and the Bollywood musicians, when they go abroad, they are able to fill up stadiums, they're able to fill up auditoriums and have large audiences, but most of that audience is the Indian diaspora. Yeah. So basically it is the classical musicians like Ustad Zakir Hussain, Pandit Ravi Shankar, Ustad Ali Akbar Khan, Ustad Amjad Ali Khan, Pandit Hariprasad Chaurasia, Pandit Vishu Mohan Bhatt. These are the amazing people who have actually broken cultural barriers and have been the flag bearers of Indian culture all over the world. And it's because they exist that people like me exist. So I believe that Indian classical music forms and traditional music forms have been appreciated always by the West. It's just that the pop music forms are starting to get recognized now.
You have almost become a regular at the Recording Academy. Do you now see musicians across the world having an added interest in your music?
The only kind of music that I make is about the environment, about sustainability and positive social impact, because I decided a little early on in my career that this is all that I'm going to do. If I'm going to do music, I'm going to make music with a purpose. So the thing is that awards like the Grammys obviously help because it gives you a platform to reach your message on environmental sustainability to larger and wider audiences. So that is always great. But of course, the thing is that, I've seen an added appreciation for my music. Of course, as I mentioned, I do a lot of concerts all over the world. That's my main way of reaching out to my audiences. Between 60 to 70 concerts a year. This year alone in 2023, I've already finished 8 countries, and there are another 13 to 14 countries to go after this. So the concerts are my favorite place, and I perform to large audiences. Just last week, I performed at the Gateway of India in Mumbai, that to about an audience of 5,000 people. It was absolutely amazing. So it's great to be appreciated back home too. And collaborations are always going to continue. And when I go to all these countries to perform, I end up meeting musicians over there. I sometimes collaborate with them on stage with the local musicians in every country. I sometimes, if I've got a free day, then I end up going to concerts. Rather than visiting monuments and visiting museums, I usually try to find out which musicians are performing in the city. I go to their concerts, try to imbibe their different musical cultures, try to understand their heritages and their musical cultural forms. And I try to bring that into my own music. So that's what I do with my music.
I have lots of questions about your music, but last year, after winning a Grammy, you met PM Modi.
Yes.
What all you discussed with him, and what type of music does he like?
So the first time I met Prime Minister Modi was in 2015 when I won my first Grammy. So I was very elated to receive a call from his office that, with an appointment to meet him. And what I thought was going to be a 5-minute photo op, just a picture with the trophy. It ended up being almost an hour-long discussion on the environment, about sustainability. And he was going to be visiting the Paris Climate Change Agreement, the Paris Climate Change Conference, rather, in December that year. And we discussed a lot about that. And then I made an album called Shanti Samsara after that, featuring 500 musicians from over 40 countries. And I showcased the album to Prime Minister Modi. He loved it. He ended up launching that album at the Paris Climate Change Conference, along with the then French President, François Hollande, and in the presence of the UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. And then after that, I performed for Prime Minister Modi a few times after that. And then in 2022, when I met him again, after winning my second Grammy, he was, of course, very, very happy and thrilled that, that I found this success for a second time. We discussed a little bit about that. I discussed about what all I've been doing with music. He told me how much he appreciated my music. So I guess I do not know what kind of music he likes, but I'm really thrilled that he appreciates the music that I make.
Ricky, your music has an imprint of Indian classical music.
Correct.
I think today's audiences are embracing music which is deeply rooted.
Absolutely, because today's audience is a lot more discerning. They are exposed to a lot of genres of music from all over the world. They're exposed to a lot of talent from all over the world. So even the major labels in India, like you look at the bigger Bollywood labels in India, they are also understanding that formula songs do not work anymore. You cannot create a formula and make a song. They've started realizing that you need to nurture talent and you need to nurture artists and make artists create music from their heart, rather than giving them a brief that, telling them that this is the kind of music that is working. Because at the end of the day, music is an art form. And if you look at any of the famous artists of the past, whether it's, let's say, Vincent van Gogh, one of the greatest artists, ever. If you look at Vincent van Gogh, if he was making a new painting, I cannot imagine him going to all the neighboring art galleries and seeing what is everybody doing. Let me do something similar, And, he would just go ahead and make something that is a part of his soul and part of him. And he would, put that out on the canvas. And if I wanted to know what kind of a person Vincent van Gogh was, I would not read a book about him. I would, I would look at his paintings and I would define what kind of a person he was by looking at his paintings. And that needs to happen more and more in India, because in India, because of the film industry, all songs that come out are either love songs or item songs, most of the songs. Whereas musicians need to create more and more music about what they feel strongly about. There are so many topics in India that we can sing about, that we can write music about. And I think we need to embrace that. We need to embrace our Indianness. We need to embrace Indian stories and create music on that.
Now, you, of course, collaborated with musicians from across the world, from Native American flute players, Tibetan monks, South African choirs, and musicians from Turkey and koto players from Japan. What type of newness does it bring when you collaborate with these musicians from across the world? Would you like to give us a reference, maybe with a song?
Sure. So it brings about communication between different cultures. That's what I believe, because it has to be mutually respectful. It should not be that I'm adding a little bit of Japanese music, So, I just thrown a little bit of koto over here and thrown a little bit of taiko drums. It has to be a proper 50-50% collaboration of minds and hearts. Like, for example, there is this Algerian violin player who I'm a huge fan of. And what I did was that I wanted to collaborate with him. So I traveled to Algeria and, and I was trying to, communicate with this violin player about what kind of music that I wanted to create. And it was a very frustrating experience simply because I could not speak his language and he could not speak my language. And our cultures were so vastly apart that even sign language was not working, because our reference points were so different. Then I just sat on the piano and I started playing a tune. And then he pulled out his violin and he started responding to my tune, And then we did that for about 2 hours. And then that became a song called Rumi in one of my albums. So the thing is that what is absolutely essential is that you need to respect each other's culture. The person who you're collaborating with has to have utmost respect for Indian culture. That is extremely important. And then once that happens, there is a beautiful confluence of minds and hearts. Because if I'm, let's say, playing if I'm like, let's say if a sitar player is collaborating with a koto player from Japan, then the sitar player does not need to play like a koto. The koto does not need to play like a sitar. The sitar needs to maintain his or her own personality. The koto player needs to maintain his or her own personality. And somehow both of them needs to come together in beautiful harmony. And the world can learn from that. The world can learn from musical collaborations.
Oh, that's a nice thought. But today's audiences are, like, say, embracing new things and new sounds. Is there a plan to collaborate and compose music for a Bollywood film or a series for an OTT platform?
I would absolutely love to do that, but it's very, very important for me that the series or the film has got a very strong social message at its heart, because it needs to be something that I resonate with. Because, I do believe that music should be made just for entertainment's sake. I listen to a lot of Bollywood music. I enjoy a lot of Bollywood music.
I'm saying maybe you can bring a newness and a new sound that we haven't heard in the series or in the film space.
I do believe that I will be able to bring a new sound, but at the same time, for me personally, just because of the artist in me and the way that I am as a personality, it's very important that there is a strong social message in whatever I do. Because I believe that music, in my opinion, the music that I create, I believe that it has to bring about a difference in a small, tiny capacity. But even then, it needs to have a strong social message. Like, for example, I just finished a Malayalam film, a film called Adrishya Jalakangal. Amazing 2-time national award winning director called Dr. Biju Kumar, and starring the superstar of the Malayalam film industry, a guy called Tovino Thomas. So the thing is that it is a mainstream Malayalam film, but at the heart of it, the film is basically an anti-war movie. So the whole film is about being anti-war, and it has been narrated in such a beautiful story. So that is why I was very thrilled to be a part of that movie and compose music for that film. And you will see, as you mentioned, there is a complete newness that I've brought into the score of that movie.
We're looking forward to that. And finally, Ricky, what are you working on right now? And are we going to see Ricky K next year as well at the Grammys?
You're going to see me at the Grammys for sure, but whether I win an award or not, who knows?
You will also.
But yeah, I'm working on a few new projects. One project that I'm working on is a song that I'm working on my own accord. It is a song which is based on the life mission that the government of India is doing, LIFE, which is Lifestyles for Environment, which the Prime Minister launched some time back. It's all about individual action, because nowadays when we talk about the environment, when we talk about sustainability, we always feel that somebody else will make a difference. We are waiting for governments to make a difference, for intergovernmental body, for leaders, for corporations to make a difference, when the truth is that the only way we can bring about meaningful change is if we change our own behaviors. So this song is about individual action, about being the change that you want to see. And I'm hoping to launch that soon. I'm still recording it. And the second project is another global project, which I'm working on with orchestras and choirs from all over the world. The biggest project that I've ever worked on. That will hopefully release by August.
Ricky K, hoping to see you each year at the Grammys. Thank you so much and best of luck.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on your show.